Hello, welcome to the THC Show. I'm your host, Neil Magnuson. This is the show about truth, hope, and change, and some connection to THC, that fabulous cannabinoid that we find on our favorite plant that gives us the euphoria that goes along with all the other cannabinoids that help us with whatever else we got going on. On the show today, we'll have 8 out of 10 Glenn from CannaMatch.ca. Jerry Martin won't be able to make it today, but we'll update a little bit about what's been going on with him. And we'll talk a lot, of course, about the Cannabis Substitution Program and the Healing Wave RV and all of that. Today's show is a little bit about freedom. It's always about freedom. For me, freedom has always been my goal. It's what it's been all about for me. I don't know why. My dad was a little bit of a bully, and I really have a pet peeve against bullies. And so maybe that's what it's all about. But I just couldn't wait to be out from underneath the disciplinarian that was my father. I couldn't wait to be out in the world looking after myself. I couldn't wait to be able to have the ability to drive and all of those things. Freedom was certainly a core goal of mine for most of my growing up. And once I grew up and got out of my parents' place, it turned out that freedom was still going to have to be a core goal of mine, because I found that I'm not free out in the world when I'm no longer under the disciplinarian of my father. But now I'm a kid in somebody else's kindergarten, a revolving group of four-year dictatorships and a bunch of rules and things that aren't necessarily what I believed was right when it comes to what's right and what's wrong. So the quest for freedom for me was not over once I got out of my parents' home and into the real world. In fact, it was probably just beginning at that point. Freedom certainly is something that is a core value for everybody, whether you even know it or not. People do not like it when they're not free to make their own choices. According to Wikipedia, freedom is the right to act or change without constraint. For me, it's more the legal definition. It's the right to do or not do whatever you want to do or don't want to do, unless you're interfering harmfully, significantly with somebody else. With freedom, which is a natural right, and by natural right, it's a right that most people would agree with when laid out properly. And what they'd be agreeing with is that people deserve not to be bullied. That people using force against other people to force them to do things that they don't want to do or prevent them from doing things that they want to do is just not right. Unless what those people are wanting to do is harm somebody else, in which case that's the other side of the coin. That's the responsibility that comes along with freedom, is making sure that you don't harm other people. And that responsibility goes beyond just yourself not harming other people, but it goes to the point where if you see somebody being harmed by somebody else, you need to do what you can to try to prevent that situation. These are natural rights and natural responsibilities. They're not given to us by any man or government. They're just what everyone basically agrees is the case, is that people deserve to not be bullied, not be forced into things, to be allowed to be what they want to be and who they want to be and do what they want to do, unless they're harming other people significantly. So the fight for freedom has been going on for a very long time. It's not something that we're ever going to win and then just be able to relax about in any case, even if we weren't still fighting for it. Freedom requires constant vigilance and constantly seeking out those forces that would act against your freedom. And there are many of those. We certainly live in a world where there are lots of very well-leveraged groups and people that don't use, proper ethics in regards to how they deal with people. They're certainly fine with harming other people for their own benefit. And so that's just the minefield of life that we need to navigate as human beings, and that's just part of the deal. But for yourself as an individual, you want to be able to do what you want to be able to do and be free to do that. And if we're not, there's behaviors that happen as a result of that. People bashing against those boundaries that are imposed on them. People trying to, defeat the bully, if you will, or whatever it is. But it changes and alters the course of a person's life and life's pursuits when they feel that they're not free to do what they want to do or be able to be who they are. And so freedom is a very, very necessary and important, fundamental, basic human need. It's something that the average person has had to fight for a very long time. We have more freedom now than the masses of people had in the past. Still less than what we need to have in the future, hopefully, and hopefully we're going to get on track here. I'm not sure we're going even in the right direction anymore. If you chart back over thousands of years and hundreds of years for sure, you can see how the kings and the queens and the pharaohs and the dictators relinquished rights to the people, over the course of time. And you can see how the Magna Carta, about 600 years ago, got a bunch of rights for some of the people, not really the masses of the people, but more of an inclusion of rights for people than had happened before. And it's grown from there. It's grown into the pursuit of common law principles to decide on a person's sovereignty and their rights and those sorts of things. And that developed over a few hundred years. And we managed to wrestle democracy away from the kings and the queens. And our own self-governance, in many ways, is what we're supposed to have here. We've devised a system, or been allowed to devise a system, where we vote in representatives. We call them public servants. And we have fundamental basic rights enshrined in Canada in a charter, in the United States in a constitution. And other things like that have come along over the centuries and over the decades to try to establish and protect the rights of the non-elite. And in fact, it's the rights of the people on the other end of that scale that are more important to be protected than anyone. The vulnerable amongst us, the marginalized, the minorities, the disabled, the people that aren't born with a silver spoon in their mouth and in fact are quite hampered by their situation for whatever reason it may be. Those people need protection more than the rest of us, but we all need to have these protections. And if we had protections that protected just the individual as an individual, not as a group, but individual rights. The only group that requires special protection are kids and children, people under certain ages that are innocent and unable to defend themselves verbally, mentally, physically. They deserve some special rights. And I think the disabled people amongst us probably deserve, as a group, to have some rights set aside that allow them access to our society and to function properly as well. But for the most part, if individuals were protected and their rights to be able to be who they are, to do what they want to do and not do what they don't want to do unless they're harming other people, then everybody would be properly protected. And we need protection. And we need protection from a number of different groups. Unfortunately, the group that we probably need protection from the most is our governments. Because the governments are the ones that are put in that position of trust where they're taxed with actually protecting us from those corporate groups that would like to exploit us, to gouge us, to manipulate us and monopolize things in ways that benefit them but harm people. Governments are really in that role and supposed to be in that role where they're the buffer between us and them, where they're supposed to make sure that we don't have child labor practices going on, we don't have unfair labor practices going on, that the workplace is a safe place, and all of these things. That's what governments are really supposed to do for us. And so because of that, we kind of trust them, and they're in a position where, it's kind of like being the accountant for a gangster. I mean, you're in a position where all the money is flowing through you, and how it gets written down in the books is all up to you. And so they're in a position where if they wanted to take advantage, they really could. And that's what's happened, and that's what's going on. And that's why I say that perhaps we're moving in the wrong direction from the pursuit of freedom, from where we should be. That we've really, over the last little while, watched as these corporate groups get larger and larger and more powerful and more powerful. And governments as well have been seizing power from people, taking away people's rights, protecting their ability to maneuver in ways that allow them to really harm people and not protect people at all. The movements over the last few decades have been many, and it's not all one-sided. But there has been a lot of movement that I've seen in watching governments seize power and in corporations consolidating their power and understanding and recognizing their power and taking advantage of ways that they can protect themselves and still exploit people, not pay their fair taxes, and get rules and regulations in place that protect them at the expense of the populace. And nothing could be more of an example than drug prohibition on that level. And so we've gotten to where we are today by fighting these things, by collectively acting to try to protect the rights of the vulnerable and the individual, and try to limit the expansions of power of these places. And it's been an ongoing battle for a long time. And by battle, I mean serious battle. I mean, wars have been fought as different groups try to take over other territories and take over other populations. And freedom has been at stake in many cases. And the narrative here in North America is that we had to go to war against a tyrant that arose in Germany that was going to take over the world, wipe out a particular group of people, and be the tyrant that would not allow for the freedom that people have been fighting for. And so the theory is, or the story is, that we went to war against that, and we joined with a bunch of other people that also believed in similar values to those of freedom-loving North America, and thankfully defeated the tyrant and won freedom for ourselves. And so that's kind of the narrative here. And I'm not disputing that to some degree wasn't going on, although I think there was a lot more of a struggle for corporate acquisition than is given credit to. But in the fanciful ideological story of we were fighting for our freedom at that time, that was a battle that had to be won. And the prospects of where we would be had we not won that are very sobering, be they true or not. Very sobering. And so in 2 days we pay respect to those people that were willing to lay their lives on the line and go into battle to try to protect the freedoms that we had gained to that point here in North America and other places around the world where we shared such values. And I can't express enough how I feel about the sacrifices that were made by our forefathers that, with their ideals in hand, be it a corporate acquisition event or be it a fight for freedom. I'm sure in the minds of my family members that fought in the war and those other people that have family members that fought in the war, that those people believed in what they were doing, and they believed that it was necessary for them to go and put their lives on the line, to hide in trenches and have bullets whizzing past them and watch their comrades die beside them in many cases. And those that survived, may be better off having not survived with the horrors of the war that dogged them for the rest of their lives. War is hell, and that's putting it mildly, and I've never tasted it myself, but I certainly have a great appreciation for those people that have gone before us and done the heavy lifting in getting us to where we are today. I've been fortunate in my life that I've never had to witness such things on a personal level. Thanks to those efforts of those before me, I'm sure. Thanks to luck and whatever. But still we find ourselves with our freedoms threatened and at risk and lost in many cases and losing more by the day, it seems. And so the need to continue to battle for freedoms continues. And in fact, it's disrespectful to all of those people that lost their lives and were willing to lose their lives and sacrificed for us, the future generations, to not continue the fight for freedom, to accept what they've gotten so far and allow that to be the case. I'm sure that my forefathers did not fight for a world where corporations could monopolize and exploit people, where God's best or nature's best gift to us in the form of an amazing plant that provides fiber and food and medicine and spirituality and so much more that comes from this amazing plant. I am sure that the God that created it and the men that fought to protect freedoms were not fighting so that corporations could leverage against us and keep that plant away from us and monopolize and exploit the sale of it. I'm sure that that's not what it was about. I'm sure that if we accept that, we are disrespecting those people that fought for freedom. We need to all have a good handle on what freedom is, and we need to all do our part to be vigilant to make sure that we maintain the level of freedoms that we have and that we continue to gain and get the freedoms that we deserve. Cannabis cough.
Sure.
Especially in these days, we need to be very vigilant and very on it about limiting and curbing the grab for power and the stripping of our rights that's going on and has been going on for quite a while and will continue unless a lot of good people act to stop it. I mentioned cannabis, and off the top I said it's the THC show, and it's got something to do with THC, from the cannabis plant. And this, for me, is the most glaring and obvious example of where we are in our fight for freedom. That the cannabis plant, which has been prohibited with the criminal law, taxpayer dollars, millions of people incarcerated and having their lives negatively affected, so much money being wasted, all of the negative consequences that have resulted in organized criminal groups, and it goes on and on and on, right up to the opioid crisis that's killing people. All of it is all as a result of the powers that be in this world using their leverage and their lack of ethics to act to prohibit a plant that would benefit so many people in so many profound ways. And the attempt to prohibit that plant has harmed so many people in so many ways that, for me, it's the continuing overregulation and prohibition of cannabis that is, for me, the guide stone. It is, for me, the place where I'm going to be able to look to see whether we're actually making progress, whether we are actually going to gain our freedoms back. Because we are in a world where, for some strange reason, and actually it's not strange at all, it's just greed for money and greed for power and control, has resulted in a place where it's all upside down and backwards. And it ain't working for us, it's working for them. We have public servants that are serving private interests at the public's expense. Public servants that are paid to protect us, but instead are protecting the interests of these large groups, the pharmaceutical groups and these other groups. It's 4:19. I'm not sure why I'm not hearing anything, but I did notice it, so that's good. And the other good news is I didn't turn my other sound off, but it seems like it's off, so maybe I don't need to turn it off in that case. But yeah, you got one more minute. The fight for freedom continues, is my point. We're crawling on the shoulders of giants of people who are willing to lose their lives to fight for the freedoms that they believe that we should have in these generations that we're living in now and the ones to come. We owe it to them. We owe the respect to them to continue the fight for freedom. This time we do it differently. This time we can perhaps even do it non-violently. That is my hope and my wish. I hope that we can have a non-violent evolution towards the freedoms and rights that we as individual human beings deserve to have, and that we can use our collective strength to hold at bay those forces that have amalgamated and planned against us to imprison us and enslave us to produce and consume for them. And that's the war that we're in right now. So in remembrance of those that went before us, lest we forget that they died for our freedom. That's the part that they usually don't tack onto that, but that's the most important part. Not just lest we forget. What is it we're not supposed to forget? What it is that we're not supposed to forget is that the people that went to those wars and fought for our freedoms were willing to die for our freedoms. And how powerful is that to you? It's very powerful to me. And I hope it's powerful to everybody. We need to continue that and make sure that that's on our list of things that we're going to do before we pass, that we're going to make a difference somehow in continuing the fight for the rights of individuals to be free from tyranny. So 420, 8 out of 10 Glenn, as always, is here. He's wearing his Canucks gear because he's got an idea that we are affecting the Canucks games by the clothes that we're wearing. Well, I'll let him go with that, and we'll test that theory.
You started that. You said when you wear, they lose.
Oh, come on.
Last Tuesday I wore, we won. And then we lost, and then we won again on Sunday. So we've got 2 out of 3, so let's just see if it works.
It's fun today to believe we have such power, I guess.
If it works,
you know?
it works, right?
Well, if it works, you can't change it. That's the thing, you know. You'll be stuck wearing that shirt for, you know.
Every Tuesday. Tuesday. Happy 420, everybody.
Happy 420.
Yeah, Mike's out there, Brutus out there, Douglas is out there.
Yeah, Glenn, you get to watch the chat a little bit. I never get to do that. I'm sorry for people. I'm not capable of multitasking like that. I have a hard enough time keeping on track without looking at other things.
Mary's out there.
Mary's out there. Mary had a great day today.
Wonder if she's in Winnipeg.
No, she's not in Winnipeg. She's not going for another couple of weeks. We're going to give an update on her situation.
Yeah.
You know, I'll tell you right now. I mean, shouldn't I frame it all first? Because
I don't know.
I know we have a lot of viewers that watch the show all the time. I love you. Thank you. I'm so sorry that it's repetitive, but I do repeat myself a lot. We're on track here in our quest for a low barrier access community cannabis store. And the Cannabis Substitution Program is the spearhead way that we're trying to get that accomplished. And so, but I do like to always inform everybody before I just go into what's going on, so that they know what's going on with that. So we got this program, Cannabis Substitution Program. We've been running it in Vancouver here for almost 5 years. I think that's a date we should really mark.
Fifth year? Of course,
first week in February will be 5 years since we actually started handing stuff out at Vandu. Okay. And so here in Vancouver, to answer the overdose epidemic, we started handing out cannabis high-dose edibles. It became the Cannabis Substitution Program, and through a series of events, we ended up with the support of the city, with the support of all the groups in downtown East Side that provide harm reduction, with many other people. We've applied to Health Canada for a license that hasn't been coming for over 13 and a half months since we applied for that. It was a very compelling application. It was over 100 pages long, but it was very well put together, very comprehensive, very easy to understand, and very clearly laid out that what we're doing here is helping people survive an epidemic of drug overdoses by providing a way through withdrawal, a way off of the opioids, and a replacement for the hard substances that people have been using in the form of cannabis high-dose edibles. What's going on over there?
Stuart says, do I ever inhale? Well, you know what,
Does he ever?
Okay, Stuart, in order to get this to light up, I'm inhaling. Right? So it doesn't have to be like a cigarette where I have to do that second inhale. I'm already filling up my lungs.
Is Stuart the inhale police? I don't know. Glenn's not a narc, I'm pretty sure.
I just want to
he hasn't been fake smoking for all of this time. Yeah. Okay, so I got some night nurse here. Glenn grew this himself and gave it to me.
Yes.
Back on that track. So we've got the Cannabis Substitution Program. It expanded from here into other areas. Our head baker here, a wonderful lady named Mary, she's watching. Hi, Mary. Took it to London, Ontario when she had to go there for family reasons several months ago. Yeah. And got the program going there. They do a couple hundred people every week there. Today it was 230 people.
Wow.
She does it every Tuesday.
Yeah.
And now she's going to Winnipeg. She's handed over the program to William and Chris, I believe, and to Bev, I believe, is going to bake for them.
She'll probably correct you.
We're going to get to know all these people over the course of time coming up here, but there's some really good people in London, Ontario that have taken over the project there. They're going to make sure it happens properly. And Mary's moving on to Winnipeg for family reasons, and the program will follow her there, and she'll set that up as well. But today, Mary had the CBC come interview her.
Oh, in London.
In London, Ontario.
Nice.
There. And that is fantastic.
That's
she said
cool.
they spent an hour and a half interviewing her, and they interviewed people in the lineup. Very powerful stories that
Hopefully
they gathered
that
there.
team will tell the team in Vancouver. And
She's
they'll come
already
to you.
been on that.
Yeah.
Mary doesn't miss nothing.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, she's got them in contact with their people here. This is a freelance contractor that CBC uses, and he's got a friend in Vancouver that does the same thing here.
So there you go.
You know, we'll see.
In answer to your question, it's William, Isaac, Chris, and Bev. Okay?
See, there's an Isaac in there.
Yes, there's an Isaac in there.
Welcome,
right there.
Isaac. And
William, Isaac, Chris, and Bev.
Thanks so much to those folks and the other volunteers that are there and will be coming as the program continues there. It's wonderful.
And so now the guy's going to talk to this guy in Vancouver here. And
well, we'll see. You know, I mean, I've actually got a CBC reporter who works for CBC, who has contacted me on a few occasions over the past 13 and a half months with respect to our application to Health Canada and how that's going.
Yeah.
But never done a story on it.
Okay.
I've tried contacting all the mainstream media.
Yeah.
I just recently, last week, wrote a letter to Jazz Johal. He's taken over from Linda Steele on the CKNW afternoon slot. They were the ones that broke the story of the provincial government petitioning Health Canada and the federal government for a Section 56 exemption for all British Columbians to be able to have on their possession up to 4.5 grams of hard chemical substances that are currently illegal. To try to stop the carnage, to try to move it into a medical issue and out of a criminal issue. And, that's the better way to deal with the issues that do surround those other substances. One of the biggest ways, of course, is to have high-dose edibles, cannabis edibles, as a really easily available, viable option to that. And so that's why when Jazz Johal broke that on his show and had Garth Mullins on there and they were talking about that, I called in right away to suggest that they cover what we're doing here and that.
And you got a positive response.
Well, I got a positive response. Yes, I mean Garth.
He finally.
Garth said that it was a tool that definitely needed to be in the toolbox, and I thank him for that. I think that in Garth's case, he hasn't personally been able to find cannabis high-dose edibles as a solution for him. Yeah. And that's not for everybody. It won't work for everybody.
No, it doesn't, no.
But it has worked for many, many people. It is something that people should have available for them to try. And I appreciate that he would acknowledge that it should be a tool in the toolbox. Mm-hmm. So, I wrote a letter to Jazz and asked if he would cover what we're doing here. And I expressed to him that, we have been delayed and not said yes to by the federal government for all of this time, but we also have not been covered by the mainstream media as well. Yeah. And this is a big story. The overdose epidemic is killing more people in Canada than the pandemic is. It's been going on for almost 7 years now. The death toll is huge. It's not just homeless, drug-addicted, obvious poor people that wander the downtown east side of every city that exists in Canada. It's throughout all the different demographics of people. There's many people that struggle with opioid addiction. Many people were put on opioids that are living in the mainstream and in all the different demographics, like I say, that ended up addicted to opioids. This is a system of addicting people that's been going on for a long time. The pharmaceutical companies lied about the addictive nature of their opioids. Pfizer was successfully criminally convicted of this, has admitted all of this, and has paid huge penalties and lawsuits for this. Doctors overprescribed, and then when it all started to hit the fan, that people's loved ones were addicted to these things. They were losing their jobs. They're losing their relationships. They're ending up on the downtown east sides of our cities in poverty and in terrible shape. So now they started cutting back. They became fearful for their licenses because it was clear that they'd been overprescribing. So now they don't prescribe enough. They don't allow people to properly wean off of these things. And people end up, going to relatives, going to friends, stealing out of medicine cabinets, ending up going to street dealers, and spiraling downwards. And this is a system of events that's been going on and repeating itself over and over again for all of this time. and all driven by prohibition, all driven by the greed of pharmaceutical companies, by complicit doctors, by, you know, all these different departments making money off of the whole thing, the police included, the enforcement side of things all making money, the treatment industry now making scads of money and unethically treating people at great expense without the real goal of getting them off the drugs at all. Watch Body Brokers if you don't know what I'm talking about. Yeah. It's just it's a horrible situation.
And they said 54% of the people in British Columbia that died from opioids live in their own homes. 1,500 people have died to date this year from opioid overdoses. From Ron, they're saying that too. But I know that last week they were saying 54% of the people weren't on the downtown east side. They have died in their own private residences from these opioid overdoses and fentanyl overdoses.
It's cut right across all the demographics.
Yeah.
It's touched everybody. And yeah.
Your plant looks sad, Marie says. I was thinking of getting.
I don't have that plant there because I'm proud of it, really.
Well, you know what? I was thinking maybe we get just a little string of lights and we'll make it a Christmas cannabis tree.
I don't think it's going to survive that long.
You don't think so?
It's the last one we have living, and it's coming down pretty soon.
It's coming down.
That was up on Jen's roof there. It didn't get proper care, and like I said, it's not there because I'm proud of it. But I love the cannabis plant in any form. That would certainly still give us, you know, some smokable buds. It's got some nice crystal on there.
Yeah. There is some dead stuff there, but you could probably get rid of that.
Oh, yeah. It's okay.
Bless you, Neil.
Maybe next year we'll have a way
Did you like that
plan.
once you finally got it going?
I don't think he can hear you.
No, eh? Well.
Which is surprising. Because, you know,
I want a delay. I get
So what that's about is that Anil's our producer is here. He's working the tech side of things. He's got the headphones on, and the headphones have a bit of a delay from us. So we were talking to him, and he didn't know it, and so then, you know, that's anyway. It's been the 420 session. I hope you had a good 420 session yourself out there. I gotta light this again.
Yeah. It takes a little bit to get going, but once it gets going, it burns nice and white, and there's no fertilizer used in it, so it just takes time.
This is the night nurse that Glenn grew.
Yeah.
Tastes all right.
Yeah, it's not bad. It gets you high. I smoked it first thing in the morning, tried it out. That's my best time to find out.
Very cool. So, CannaMatch.ca, how's that going?
Good. We're still growing. New registrations, getting people visiting my spot, I guess. I get messages and stuff like that.
So, growing every day.
Yeah.
CannaMatch.ca, that's where you can hook up with other like-minded cannabis lovers.
We are worldwide. We've got people in Spain. We got people in other countries. I just can't remember right now because I just smoked that big fat joint.
and there's an app.
Yeah, and there's an app on the Google Play Store. Just type in CannaMatch, CannaMatch, and come join us. You don't
great way to meet people.
In love. You can just meet somebody to go smoke with, right?
Yeah, great way to meet people. Great way to hook up if you're into town. You're not familiar with people. If you don't have a cannabis hookup, you can maybe find somebody who does.
Yeah. I'm sure
it's a great idea.
There'll be vaccinated people who will join you and unvaccinated people who will join you.
I'm sure you can figure out all that stuff when you're in communication with people as to what your standards are. So Jerry Martin can't make it in today, but there's been some developments in his case.
Yes.
There was a hearing on the 5th and the 6th, I believe, which were kind of like final arguments or final decisions. And it's not good. Some of the affidavits that were sworn into evidence have been tossed out.
Yeah.
The judge said that some of it was hearsay. Some of them weren't qualified as experts. So that's never a good sign when they're doing that kind of stuff. But we'll see. Yeah. I don't have a lot of faith in the courts. We've won most of the court battles that we've had in the last number of years, but that's only because of the efforts of some great lawyers that worked real hard and had to work against a system that is not designed to find the truth, not designed to actually provide justice, not designed to be able to judge a situation as to its rightness or its wrongness, in my opinion. These are the truths that I've managed to glean from the many years that I've been going into courtrooms and listening to evidence and then seeing what judges do with the evidence.
Yeah.
And although, like I say, we've won most of the times we've been there, it's not been without some real struggle, in many cases appeals. And I've also watched a lot of other cases along the way, much more minor cases of individuals where they didn't win, where the governments have made rulings that just make no sense.
And now some charges are coming out from the CSU raids. Also, I hear that guy that was at Halloween.
Well,
they got charged.
That's in Delta there, and that was not the CSU.
I thought he said it was the CSU.
I don't believe so. I think that's the Delta Police.
Okay.
And there was somebody that had a beef with them.
Yeah.
That was also involved in the cannabis trade.
Yeah.
And he called the cops on them. And so the cops came there and they say they found things, but there's not much evidence of things like that. This is before the courts. I don't want to. Yeah, and now they've come out to say that they were edible makers, and that it was about 2 kids in Delta that got, or maybe it was only 1 kid that got some cannabis edible in their Halloween stuff.
Oh wow.
And they're trying to link the two.
Oh, wow.
I actually read the report from the Delta Police. They say that one of their more diligent members was on her own time looking at the different online sellers of cannabis products, and managed to somehow link this one with that one. And there's really no link there, but because they showed up there without proper warrants. They showed up there, and so we'll see where all that goes. I know he's quite confident that he's going to be all right.
It's just
well, they killed his animals. I mean, he had an amazing aquarium. They all died. They stole his truck, and it's gone. They sold it to auction or whatever.
Wow.
There's a bunch of other stuff. They had their phones for a very long time. They were really brutal in what they did there. And, you talk about rights and freedoms, and, this is a day coming up here on Thursday where we're going to honor the veterans and the people that lost their lives and were willing to lose their lives to fight for our freedoms. And, we're supposed to have a system here where people are innocent until proven guilty, where there's proper steps that have to be taken. Supposed to. Just on that note, innocent until proven guilty.
Who told us that? I want to slap them.
Well, that's common law.
I know.
That's common law.
I know.
Yeah. That's supposed to be one of the fundamentals.
It's supposed to be, but
of the whole justice system.
It ain't.
Is innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah.
But I mean,
it's like when they get charged, you got to go and prove yourself innocent.
Well,
right?
Or when you're found in possession of cannabis.
Yeah, or
you're presumed guilty until you can prove it wasn't THC.
Yeah, or that
or other things like that.
Reasons or something. Yeah.
The whole common law concepts of how we deal with people trying to find truth and trying to use just ways and means of dealing with things has been just tossed aside in the last couple of decades here. Well, since the late 80s, really.
How can you get justice when there is justice?
Justice to me came to mean just us.
Yeah.
And it ain't us, it's them.
Yeah.
And they get what they get, their just desserts.
Yeah.
And we get our just desserts, which aren't as good as their just desserts. But, justice is really an illusion in a world where money rules the day, where, the higher priced lawyer that you can get, the more chances you've got, the more money you spend, the more chance you've got of getting, a lesser charge or getting dismissed or whatever, right? Money should not rule the day. And we were on track with common law principles and still working on them after hundreds of years. And then they decided, well, we've got this new Charter of Rights and Freedoms in Canada, and the common law principles don't really jive with the prohibition on cannabis and other drugs, so let's institute the rule of law, and we'll just kind of let common law fade. And that's really what's happened. With common law, you couldn't have cannabis prohibition the way
No.
that they have it. It was really at odds with common law principles of having to have done damage, having the scales of justice and how much damage you've done, having the need to have the intent to do damage. People that are smoking weed, they have no intention of doing damage. I had a cop the other day tell me that, wow, and this was at the Halloween festival. He said, no, it's understanding, having the knowledge that it's illegal.
Yeah.
And then going ahead and doing it.
Oh, okay.
That's the mens rea and the actus rea. Having the knowledge that it's illegal.
And then just doing it.
But in common law, it's not about having the knowledge that it's illegal. It's about having the knowledge that it's going to do harm. You needed to have the knowledge that your actions were going to significantly do harm. So just breaking a rule, I mean, rules have changed, so many times.
Oh, yeah.
There used to be rules against all kinds of stuff that there isn't now because those rules were wrong. They were violating people's rights. They weren't right. I mean, theft and murder is easy. But all these other, crimes where there's no victim and things, they're not easy at all. And over time, we've overturned most of them.
Yeah.
And the cannabis, I mean, they say they've overturned the cannabis prohibition as well, but really they haven't. They've allowed for legal possession and purchasing of cannabis through their government licensed stores, but it's still prohibited to grow and sell cannabis or have cannabis produced outside of the legal means. So legal cannabis and still illegal cannabis.
Cannabis is cannabis. Except when your government grows it and irradiates it.
Well, except for when you've got a hypocritical system that is wrong.
Yeah.
When things don't add up, then you can't make them add up. They don't add up.
They never will.
So it makes no sense because it's making money. And that's the world we live in. If it makes money, it doesn't have to make sense. So logic and justice and truth don't matter in a world where money is the answer to most questions. So,
wow. Eh?
Yeah.
Mary says Isaac is William Hicks' son.
Very good. I remember her mentioning him.
And there's another guy, Mike, that she says helped too.
When we had the CSP going here after the first year or so, I think we had 15 volunteers.
Yeah.
That would show up every day. It was
most of them were the Holy Rollers too, weren't they?
Well, I had the Holy Rollers, so we had a maximum of 6.
Okay.
I was only allowed. Vandu would only allow 6 people in there to roll.
Okay.
But
and then 9 staff.
we had the door. We were inside and outside, so we had a person at the door.
Yeah. People in the lineup.
It's an area that required me to have what we called a security person, so I did have a security person. We bagged everything on site. So Chris Backer in Halifax, he has everything pre-bagged before he gets there. I'm not sure what Mary's doing, but we bagged everything on site. Yeah. And so we had more volunteers because of that. And there's a lot of people involved with what Mary's doing there. There's the 4 people that she's mentioning, but she's getting a number of donations as well. Yeah. And those people are also a part of the team. Same with Chris. And Chris is
almost in almost every province, because if Mary's going to be in Manitoba, I'm sure we could probably get Sterling to do something in Saskatchewan.
And the good people in Alberta would probably do it.
Yeah, and then we could have
it's probably coming.
CSP, in each province. If you're out there, you deserve it.
And I'm sure that, once we get approval from the government, there will be more.
Yes. And we'll have them in different towns.
And that's a good thing. And that's what I had to say to the Health Canada representatives when we had our meeting with them before Christmas last year. We had a meeting with our lawyer and representatives from Health Canada. And they said that they were concerned that if they allowed us the ability to have a low barrier access cannabis store, that many other groups would want to do the same thing. Yeah. And I said that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. Yeah. A low barrier access cannabis store will save lives. It'll benefit the community in profound ways, which is what we've been doing.
Crime.
less crime, the better health of people, better disposition of people, and a lot less of the hard drugs and all the consequences that come with an area filled with hard drugs. This needs to be an option for people in neighborhoods across Canada. It's a good thing. The government would get lots of kudos for that. And
it's almost like the government has seen that commercial by Ruffles. Where the two Eskimos are sitting on the big ice floe.
I don't have TV, Glenn.
You don't know. This was a long time ago.
Oh, okay.
But the one Eskimo asked for the guy to share his Ruffles with him. He says, if I give you one, I have to give one to everybody. They're sitting in the Arctic on ice floe. There's no way around, right? But
if the government allows for one poor, sad, pain-ridden, addicted person to get some life-saving cannabis high-dose edibles, I guess they have to do it for everybody that's like that. And that won't be a bad thing,
no. But they think it is.
Well, because their thoughts are not about the people that were being helped by our program. Their thoughts are all about the economics of having government-licensed stores and producers that are trying to maintain artificially high prices on cannabis and not wanting competition in the marketplace. And that's what it is.
You'd almost think that the government wanted you to be healthy so you could work and pay taxes. Right? I guess,
They need some of that.
Yeah, I guess
they need some of that.
You're going to get more taxes from a
people are going to work. People are going to work, right? Because people want to live. People want to have a roof over their head. They got to pay rent or buy a house or something. So people are going to work.
Yeah.
They would just like them getting drunk on the weekends and not high on the weekends.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And then they're killing their kidneys and other people while they drive and getting mad at their wives because they're drunk and
it's a crazy world, Man. I mean, I try not to be a conspiracy nut, but I'm not a conspiracy nut, I don't know if people are actually sitting around talking about how can we kill the population off. I mean, there's those people that believe that the real elites think that there's 80% too many people on the planet and that they need to remove those people somehow.
Yeah, I know, eh?
I mean, maybe there's some people that sit around and say that would be a good idea. I don't know if anybody's going to put anything into practice to make that happen, like some worldwide virus or something. I don't know. It could happen. I don't know.
Avengers had a movie like that, didn't they?
But I do know that profit and greed are at the root of much of what's going on around us with respect to the pricing of things and the way things are structured. That you look at how the pharmaceutical companies are involved in the opioid epidemic of overdose deaths and addiction that's been going on here, and that's been well documented. And you look at how they invest their money in being sponsors for news programs, all over North America, probably around the world, where you'll see that Pfizer is the main sponsor of all of these different news segment programs. Well, how is a news segment program supposed to be reporting on what's going on with the pharmaceutical industry's collusion in the addiction crisis?
You're getting money from a
when they're giving you big checks all the time.
Yeah.
And I suspect that that's kind of on purpose. I mean, you would think that they would want to be sponsoring these groups for that very reason.
Yeah.
Let's have those people in our pockets.
Jay Frost says it's Fox and CNN that Pfizer is giving money to right now.
Lots.
And Jay Frost would like to have us on his corner.
Mr. Frost, you mean?
Mr. Frost. But Mr. Frost, we might be able to do that in July.
I like going on his program. I've been on there a few times before. I like that he's on all the time. I mean, that guy's on. I can barely put together a couple-hour show once a week.
He says, I think it's time we have you guys on the corner again.
Yeah. And, ask him how many shows is it now? How many thousands of shows?
Yeah, he's definitely in the thousands.
In the thousands of shows.
He's on there. He'll answer it. You got to give him about 10 or 15 seconds for it to go.
I'm all proud of myself here. I'm into my third 100.
Yeah, third 100.
No, my second 100. Third year, second 100.
Well, we got 2 years. He does one every day.
I know.
3 times a day.
I think he does more than one a day.
Yeah, 4 times.
There's the late night session.
The total right now is 3,236.
Wow, but who's counting?
He is. You just asked him. It's good he is because he can answer your question for you.
Oh, man.
will be 3,237. He does 3 a day.
3 a day.
3 a day.
Nothing better to do, I guess.
No.
Oh, good on you.
Well, when you live in Newfoundland on an island.
And getting the word out is so important.
Yes, and there's more women on that island than there are men, but J-Fox just had a baby.
Yes, I saw that.
Yes,
I saw that.
Yes,
beautiful baby.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Nature is fantastic and
he
amazing.
has every episode on hard drive.
Wow.
That's a lot big hard drive, man. Jeez, that's going to be terabytes big.
That's crazy. That's awful cool,
that's
man.
Dedication.
That's dedication.
That is.
And,
so, maybe we could even do something if he came to Nova
I'm sure
Scotia.
We'll figure something out.
Yeah.
We're gonna drive to Nova Scotia, are we?
Well, that would be you coast to coast.
It would be.
We have to go to Peggy's Cove.
I do want to go. I told you I did want to do that if we're going to do that.
Yeah, we're going to do that.
It'd be quite a trip.
Peggy's Cove, and then he could come across and we could do a show there with Jay Frost and there from his side of Canada and stuff like that.
I want to see Greg Kedward.
Who's Greg?
Greg is the producer of the Still Trippin'.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, the BC Bud Chronicles, Still Trippin', and or Trip, the BC Bud Chronicles, sorry.
Yeah.
Trip, the BC Bud Chronicles. You can watch it on YouTube. And Still Trippin', the Trans-Canada Highway. I was in Trip. Mm-hmm. I was just a featured activist. We were doing the Drug War History Walking Tour, so his crew came and filmed me doing the Drug War History Walking Tour, Gassy Jack's statue, and I had my little dog Murphy Brown was there, and even Roxanne was on that particular tour. It was really just synchronistic that all happened, and he turned that into a wonderful little movie about the growers and the medical users and the activists of British Columbia. And so then, unbeknownst to me, that movie came out and was quite successful, especially in Europe, and to the point where he did a sequel.
Yeah.
And so he approached me because the people that liked the first movie, they liked my segment there where I was discussing the ins and outs of drug prohibition and cannabis prohibition on the Drug War History Walking Tour. And they kind of said that was the key to holding the movie together, which sort of explained a lot of things. And would I consider being the narrator and the interviewer on the sequel?
On the sequel.
Well, sure. That's what I lived for as an activist, is to be able to have a platform to get the message out. And so we spent a couple of years back in 2010. It was released in 2010. We had spent a couple of years. We went across Canada in numerous different forms, trains, planes, and automobiles, in an RV for a little while as well. We had our own RV. And we met a lot of people. We interviewed a lot of activists. And thanks to everybody that participated in that movie. And so, that came out 10 years ago.
Maybe we could get Cy to follow us. You know Cy, right? Is it High Times Mag? No, not High. Cyro. You know who he is.
I might, but I'm not.
Hold on.
So anyway, Still Trippin' came out 10 years ago, and the theme of that movie was why is cannabis still illegal? And the movie hasn't changed much. Yes.
Okay.
Has not changed much. It's still completely relevant. All of the movie, right, start to finish, basically. The only slight change would be in the theme, or the pursuit of the question is not why is cannabis still illegal. It would be why is there still illegal cannabis.
Yes.
And
his magazine is High Canada.
High Canada, yeah.
Yes.
So I'm sure we'll have lots of fun. Whatever we do on that trip.
It's going to be... Well, we know we're going to Alberta, for sure.
So, I talked about Jerry Martin a little bit, that they've thrown out some things. They'll be reconvening for Jerry's case there. And in case you don't know, Jerry Martin was a dispensary owner that for 4.5 years ran a dispensary in a small town in Saskatchewan. He was... demanded to be closed down when legalization came along. Couldn't do that, didn't do that, was arrested, had his properties seized. He's been facing prosecution ever since then. Him and 2 other dispensary owners that were also raided at the similar time in Saskatchewan have joined together for a constitutional challenge against the lack of availability and reasonable access to cannabis, to medical cannabis, and for medical patients. Finally, after 4.5 years, he got to go before a judge, even though it was just through audio-visual presentation, not in person. The affidavits were filed, the arguments were made, the cross-examinations were done. Now it's proceeded to where some of that has been tossed out by the judge. Decision will be coming at some point down the road. There's one more convening of the court on the 16th of November this month coming up. And then from there, maybe. Oh, and I think he actually mentioned that they've extended that as well. They didn't just toss some of the affidavits. They've also extended now when they're going to reconvene. So I don't know when that is. We'll have to get that from Jerry. I'm hoping he'll be back on the show next week.
Yep.
But at some point, maybe we'll get a decision on that and see whether or not somebody who was willing to help people.
Be next year for a decision, probably.
Yeah, it'll be next year, but by now for sure.
New Year's coming up and stuff, so
yeah,
and we know what the governments do then.
And the 14th wave of COVID is coming, and
there's a 14th wave. Oh
well,
my God.
That's what you need your 10th booster shot for, I think.
Oh yeah.
They're 4 waves behind on the booster shots. You know, it's so tempting to talk about
I know.
the situation.
The elephant in the room, as they say, right?
It is, because, you know, freedom, and it's a very funny thing. I mean, your freedom stops where someone else's rights begin, you know. I mean, you can't interfere or harm other people. And here they've got this situation where you might have a virus that could harm this other person. So if you don't take this chemical to corral that virus, or if you don't wear that mask or stay apart, then you could be now harming that other person in a way that they can deem criminal, and all of these things. It's a very touchy,
because
crazy
there's even
situation.
Certain races that don't have the freedoms that you and I have. Well, they're discriminated against, right? So
absolutely,
freedom is a strange word there.
It's not something that most people enjoy.
Experience,
you know, it's not.
But then, you know, if you lived in a third world country and then you came here and you had more rights than you did there, then you could experience freedom. I guess that's the
more freedom.
The grass is greener on the other side, sort of thing.
It's like
right?
Not safe but safer. It's not freedom, but it's more free.
Yeah,
you know?
So
being more free is okay. I mean, it's better than being less free for sure. The problem is settling. You know, and what you're settling for. And who's profiting on you? Who is it that owns you? And I mean, that's really the thing, is that nobody owns you, right? Your parents have control over you until you reach the age of maturity or a majority, whatever that might be, or however you may want to measure that. But they don't own you. Nobody owns you. And yet we really live in a world where we are chattel to the rich, to the financial elite in many ways. They've got us through our governments in many cases as well. And governments too are not just puppets for these people. Governments are culpable themselves in the erosion of freedoms for their own benefit. Governments want to expand their powers. They want to be able to continue to govern. You know, because they want to continue to get the paycheck. You know, that's mostly what it is.
Paycheck,
And once you've been in government and you've made a bunch of friends, you know, you have the ability to make more paychecks after you're not getting the public paycheck anymore.
Bigger paychecks for your friends.
And it's
you know,
money,
right?
money.
Yeah, that's it. And power, money and power.
And it has to be, right? I mean, that's the world that is going to be unchecked. It's just that, you know, being that way, many people are harmed. If those people manage to find a way to exercise their strengths and gain some of their rights back, I mean, all of that, you know, is just the mechanics of life.
It is.
In any even small group, one usually arises as the leader, you know, the one that's smarter or tougher or, you know, more charisma or more belongings or, you know, whatever it is. These types of hierarchies are just the natural order of things. This planet has been evolving.
Same with animals, right?
Works in the animal world too.
We got the Lion King, right, who's king of the pride, and there's a gorilla who's king of the gorillas.
Oh man, even the way the birds fly in their V's is all according to their status and all the rest of it. So, you know, and the thing is you become civilized about some things. I mean, in the animal world, some of it's not very civilized. Some of the way they deal with
they fight
or
death. That's it, right?
Or left to die, or you know, they don't have the mechanisms. And humans too, for a long time, didn't even have the ability to help a lot of people. I mean, if you broke a bone, you know, 1,000 years ago, you're probably dead.
Yeah,
you know?
really?
I mean, especially if it's a compound fracture. If you get a bone stuck out the side of your body, you're probably not going to live. I mean, it's going to get infected,
or something.
Yeah, I mean, so many people died that way. Nature is brutal, but life is based on love. It's based on the love of life.
Not all.
Oh, I think so. I think, and in that, I'm talking about the desire to survive. That throughout the animal kingdom, everybody, including amoebas and cells, have a desire to live. They avoid danger. They seek out food and pleasure. The love of life, the love of your own individual life, is a very, very strong driving force in why we wake up every day and how we're born and why we live. We have a survival instinct that because we don't want to die. We just love our own life. And and amongst our families, you look at how mothers nurture their children throughout nature, although not
always with love, because we learn lessons from things that we do wrong also, right? And we learn from hate also too, because we learn that that's not a good thing, right? So that's what I'm trying to say. It's not always life is love. There's got to have the opposite too, because we do learn stuff from when bad things happen to us.
Sure, but the driving force of life is the love of life.
Yeah.
The driving force of reproduction is the love of another.
Yes, true.
You know?
Yes.
The driving force of an individual's life is given to them early on, usually by their mother. Love is a real key to life itself here, in my opinion, and that's just my opinion.
Yeah, well, that's a good opinion. Just somebody called me, so I just sent them the link from the show. Now they know I'm on the show.
So, there we go.
It's 5 o'clock.
For Jerry Martin, the other thing that Jerry and I talk about a lot on the show, as you know, you want to get going probably because you got a hockey game to watch in a couple hours. You're here for a bit?
I got till 5:15.
All right.
Yeah.
Landlord was going to drop by, but he hasn't yet.
It's pretty rainy and
we'll
windy
see if he
out
does
there,
or not.
yeah.
But so Jerry has not been just idle and suffering severe depression because of the agony of having had his store taken away from him and being treated as a criminal and all that goes along with that for a sensitive guy. But he's focused a lot of his attentions, as like I say, on the pursuit of the Freedom of Thought Project. The idea that your thoughts are sacred, they belong to you, and you should have the right to change them, alter them, any way that you want. Of course, no one has the right to harm other people, and that's always the caveat. We could throw that in there. But what you do with your own body and what you do with your own mind is your business and needs to be your business. And when it's not your business, when someone else makes it their business, that's when we have problems, and that's what's going on here with the idea that governments have prohibited the use of mind-altering psychedelic plants, which makes no sense whatsoever. In a world where alcohol is not only freely available, but provided through the government, and, it's just difficult to wrap your brain around that a government would think that public servants, maybe a dictator could decide, no, you can't take a trip on that hallucinogenic mushroom there. Although I don't know why that would be the case even,
I don't know.
It really doesn't make any sense. It really must be making money. It really must be about controlling people because so much of
about control.
Because, like I said right off the hop, what's going on in our world is driven by profit and greed for money and control. Mm-hmm. It's not just money; it's also control.
Yeah.
So power over people, and what is politics but power? The seeking of power over people.
Yeah.
And they've exercised their power over people to the point where you can't change your reality through the use of nature's plant medicines without their permission.
Yeah.
They've now allowed for a half a dozen people to end their life on a mushroom trip.
Yes. which is
Good on them. Isn't
Yeah.
that nice of them, eh? You can't live your life on a mushroom trip, but you can end your life on a mushroom trip.
Or I thought they can use mushrooms because they have that they're going to die, and
They're gonna die.
Yeah, and they're allowing them to be better minded instead of focusing on that they know that they're going to die. The mushrooms are allowing them to have a brighter outlook on it, I guess, sort of thing.
The use of medical mushrooms
Yeah.
is really beneficial for people that suffer from depression, anxiety, pain, PTSD,
Yeah.
sleep issues,
Yeah.
obesity,
Yeah.
addiction issues.
Yeah.
All of those
kinds of
things
stuff.
are things that mushrooms benefit, and yet they're prohibited. We have no history of people harming themselves through the use of these psychedelic mushrooms. There's a history of people harming themselves by eating mushrooms that were inedible and not the right ones. So a little bit of education might be in order to help people make sure they get the right ones, but that's not hard to do.
No.
Certainly,
Just like we can make sure you get the right kind of cannabis. right.
Well, there's not really a wrong type of cannabis.
For some people, there is. There's some.
Well, there's some strains that work better,
or will make somebody.
But
a
with
bit more
mushrooms,
paranoid or something.
There's mushrooms that'll kill you.
Yes,
there's
of course.
there's no cannabis that's going to
There's
kill
people
you.
that'll kill you too.
Well, we need to heavily regulate people. That's for sure. But do we need to heavily regulate the substances that people might decide to take for themselves?
Yeah.
And why would we do that? And how would we do that? And for which people would we do that? I mean, are you really going to, as a public servant, are you really going to use taxpayers' money to interfere with, say, a veteran suffering from PTSD that wants to try to relieve the pain and the suffering that entails? I mean, is that...
It's strange how they are against the good natural stuff like cannabis and mushrooms, but they'll promote cigarettes and alcohol, right? That will kill you eventually.
Don't forget pharmaceuticals.
Oh, pharmaceuticals too, yes.
I mean, those synthetic drugs that kill so many people that nobody talks about because doctors aren't even required to report the adverse effects of these things, including the deaths from these things. But yeah. We live in a world where governments are behind and in favor of and profiting from the sale and the use of these harmful, non-natural substances. You can drink the juice off of rotting berries.
Yeah.
They'll make money off you.
Before, the indigenous people were using these, and then we had the schools, and when they tried to wipe them out in Canada here, and their lives, and that's how we became to pharmaceuticals. If we had, the indigenous people had been free to do it, I bet you we'd be using a lot more.
We would have a whole different series of medicines.
Yes,
system of medicine.
We'd have a lot more healthy, natural medicines because
Absolutely.
the medicine men would have been able to increase his knowledge, and it would be a...
And people want to go back to that. People have wanted to go back to that since at least the 60s.
Yeah.
And governments have been interfering.
And they would use and all kinds of
things.
stuff, right?
Yeah.
The trips that you would take would help you get through your PTSD or whatever. They didn't call it PTSD then, but people had the same traumatic events, and something would make them fall back to that, I guess. If they saw it
archaeologists believe that the transition from animal state to human state was probably aided with the use of psychedelics and psychedelic mushrooms and things that people were involved with there, or that our great caveman ancestors were involved with.
Sterling says he hasn't found a mushroom that's not been beneficial for anybody.
Well, don't just go trying any old mushroom you find out there in the world.
I'm sure it'd be Sterling. You probably looked it up.
He's probably talking about mushrooms that are available on in the marketplace.
He's got something against Canucks fans too.
Lots of people do, and that's not very nice,
No, but you know what, Sterling? If your province had a hockey team, maybe we'd have an option.
They like Edmonton in Saskatchewan.
Do they? Okay.
They're torn between Edmonton and Winnipeg, apparently.
Maybe they could start voting, pulling for Seattle because it's Saskatchewan.
No, it's too far away from Seattle.
It's
probably Denver.
Denver.
Be gentle on us Canuck fans here. We've never won anything here since the early 1900s, and that was a different name on a team.
That C's not for captain. That C's for cannabis.
It's for crying.
It's for crying.
We've been crying for over 50 years at the end of every season.
Oh, come on.
I cried for so many seasons.
Wasn't there a Boston team, baseball team that couldn't win for almost 70 years.
You're going to mention Boston? I guess in that tone, it's not bad to mention Boston.
Right? So we're like 50, right? 50.
I'm a big believer in everything always could be worse.
For them, right?
It could be worse.
Right? Eventually,
we could live in Saskatchewan.
Yeah, we could live in Saskatchewan.
Not even have a team.
Right next to Sterling.
I feel sorry for people in Saskatchewan. They got the Rough Riders. They're not bad. They won a cup recently, but not too many in their history. That's too bad too. My roots are in Saskatchewan, Sterling. I'm not slagging Saskatchewan. I love Saskatchewan. It's a wonderful place. That's where most of the farming is done there, and really, really good people. But Canucks fans have been long suffering for over 50 years.
Our time will come.
Maybe not.
It will.
Well, it didn't for my dad.
Just like we were going to be alive to see it, right?
Well, yeah, no, that's right. Okay. And even then?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Don't know.
It's a possibility. The way they played in their last game, things are looking up, though. Maybe I should get back on the old, I believe they're going to win trip.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that till they win one.
Kazoo says over in New Zealand, the Kiwis cry when they don't win in rugby.
Yeah. That's because they've won a lot already.
Yeah,
they've never won.
Yeah.
Imagine that. Never won in 50-some years. Well, people in Saskatchewan have never had a team. So there you go. We should not complain. We could lose our team. Can you imagine? Just because you and I had this conversation, all the power you think we have here, probably the Canucks are going to be sold to an investor in Saskatchewan, and Sterling will be watching the Saskatoon somethings, and we'll be wishing we had a team.
Yeah.
It could happen.
Talking about good teams.
Because they could say, hey, you had your chance.
Look what Vancouver.
You've been 50-some years in the league. You haven't managed to win a cup. Your turn's over.
Yeah.
Give somebody else a chance,
But Vancouver's soccer team made it to the playoffs now.
They did. Good on the Whitecaps. This is a sports show now, by the way.
While we were talking about that. And winning teams, right? I love that coach. Vanny is his name or whatever. Man, they should hire that guy. I
listened to the last game start to finish. It was very exciting to listen to.
Yeah, and he's amazing, man. He brought on all his coaches to say thank you during the interview and everything. And that guy really needs this job.
I see.
He would really bring some life.
I'm not close enough to the team. I don't follow them.
No, but you know what? That guy is really... You can just see it.
I'll have to see it because I haven't been able to watch a game.
Watch some of his interviews. That's all I'm seeing is in his interviews, and when Global shows that he's all excited for fans
I don't have TV, Glenn.
No,
that's what I'm saying. I
I
don't get to watch the games. I don't see Global's sports broadcasts.
You can get it on here for free.
I know, but I got so much stuff that I watch on here already that I don't like it, and I don't have much time in my life. I don't even get to watch my own shows ever. I always got so much going on. I had a phone call today with the assistant to Sheila Malcolmson. She's the Minister of Mental Health and Addictions in British Columbia.
Yep.
I had sent a couple of emails already since that ministry changed. It used to be a different minister involved. In fact, there didn't used to be a mental health and addictions ministry here either. This is a new incarnation of the latest election that we had. So I did have a pretty good conversation with her, and I explained everything, and they recorded that conversation. She said she was aware of us. Well, that's good, you would think, right?
Yeah.
Mental health and addictions during an epidemic of overdose deaths, where for almost 5 years we've been handing out about 10 or 12,000. In the last 17 months we've been handing out 10 to 12,000 milligrams of high dose edibles 6 days a week, contrary to the criminal code, and saving people's lives, well documented, well supported, and yet they've never been here to visit me. Didn't return any emails when I sent them emails.
And 10 years ago, you would have been part of that addictions. They'd be going against you because they used to consider marijuana as being addictive.
Well, and some places still do.
Oh, really? Eh?
Oh, yeah. There's still concern about the addictive nature of cannabis. It's ludicrous, actually.
Yeah.
It's
a psychological
I watched
addiction
it was a Nova cannabis program there, and they talked about the addictive. And here's their example. So a young man is suffering serious pain. He's in college, and somebody turns him on to weed, and it really helps him. And he uses the cannabis for quite a while, and then he applies for a job somewhere, and they are going to drug test him, and he can't have been using cannabis. So he has to quit using cannabis. He quits using cannabis. The pain returns. He becomes irritable. Can't sleep well again.
And can't work.
And so they're saying that quitting cannabis caused him to be irritable and to not sleep well, and
Oh, well, but he's in pain.
he was in pain.
Anybody who's in pain is not going to be irritable.
This is not an example.
well.
This is not an example of the addictive nature of cannabis. Is that a person in pain who's using it stops using it, and then the pain returns?
Yeah,
that doesn't speak to the addictive nature of something. The addictive nature of something is its physical effect on stopping the use, and not in the returning of pain, but in additional symptoms that would arise as a result of that, getting headaches or lack of bowel movements or stomach upset or throwing up a lot. The things that happen when you stop using opioids after long periods of using opioids, those are physical symptoms that result just from quitting the drug, not because the symptoms the drug was treating are now coming back because you're no longer treating those symptoms. So
when I was doing weekends in Toronto for being caught with cannabis and that, they made us go through a drug program at the Addiction Research Foundation of Canada at Spadina and College, I believe it is. It's called ARF. Right. So, they tell you that marijuana is just a psychological addiction. If you quit, it's going to be about 3 days of maybe no sleeping and stuff like that. You may have a change of appetite, but it's not a physical addiction, like you said, for the opioids, heroin, cocaine, and all that other stuff.
Yeah, it's not like quitting just about anything like that, or even sugar.
Yeah, even sugar.
So, that's true.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to go, sir.
All right.
And you're going to
enjoy the game tonight.
Yeah, I will. I'm sure you will be too.
Well, I hope so. If the formula works and you and I have the power you think we do.
Well, there's other people wearing shirts too. Not just you and I. We can't be like that right now. We got to share. We got to share the power.
I wish them well. If I had anything I could do about it, I would do it. If I
Patterson's scoring goals now, so that's a good thing. So
he's kind of getting his groove back.
Right?
Hughes looked really good on the,
I think
all game.
I think we're going to be all right.
I like the new team. I like the new look of the team. I think they are a much improved team 5-on-5.
Yeah.
The penalty kill has sucked this year, but that's something that you can get that back on track for sure. So.
All right, we'll see you next week.
Thank you so much for coming in.
No problem. Thank you.
All right, so on to the update of the Cannabis Substitution Program and the Healing Wave RV. This is a program that's been running for, 17 months in its current form, although 5 of those months were in the store here. The last 12 plus months have been out in the RV. But here we've been providing low barrier access to cannabis to try to offset the use of opioids. We're right here in the heart of downtown Vancouver, right close to Wasting in Payne or Hastings in Maine, where some of it is one of the largest drug dealing centers apparently in North America. There is a lot of chemical drugs that are traded and bought in this neighborhood. And what needs to be in this neighborhood to offset that is an easy available access to cannabis, especially high-dose edibles. High-dose edibles can compete with those other substances. It can have as much of a kick as the opioids and crystal meth and the rest of it. Cannabis high-dose edibles, you can eat enough that you could be, left in a drunken stupor. You could be passed out for days. You could be hanging on to a pole for your dear life. None of those things are terribly comfortable. That's not usually what people are going for, although to sleep for a few days is actually not a bad thing in some cases, especially if you're trying to get through withdrawal. To knock yourself out with high-dose edibles during that, especially first 4 or 5 day period, can be very valuable in getting through withdrawal. But for the most part, the people that are using opioids and those other drugs are dealing with issues. They're dealing with pain issues, some physical, some emotional, and those issues can be dealt with cannabis high-dose edibles, where a real nice state of mind can be achieved, and you can happily skip through your day without being distracted by all of the pain or painful thoughts that plague a person that's been traumatized throughout their life. And so we are here on the downtown east side with this program that we introduced because there was an epidemic of a poisoned drug supply. People were dying of overdoses. And it became apparent to me that we needed to make it as easy as possible for people to get high-dose edibles. So for that, I went to VANDU, the Vancouver Area Network of Drug Users Organization. I got unanimous approval to go to City Council, to present it to City Council and get support from them, which I did not get, but I did do. I also presented it to the Vancouver Police Department, trying to be as completely above board as possible in what we were going to do. And then we went ahead and started doing it. And early February, 5 years ago, we started handing out care packs of high-dose edibles to a couple hundred people that would show up. We would give out 200 or 300 care packs, 4 to 6 high-dose edibles and a couple of joints per pack, and had great success in doing that. Professor M.J. Malloy had his research team studying what we were doing down there. He's wrote dozens and dozens of papers speaking to the efficacy and the safety of the program. Professor Zachary Walsh, the foremost expert on cannabis as a replacement for other drugs, supports what we're doing, wrote us a nice letter. In his letter, he stated that there should be no obstacles in our way if government had anything to do with things to do with us. And so all of that was put into an application that we sent to Health Canada shortly after we moved into the storefront, because when the City Council passed their motion unanimously to support what we were doing and to support low barrier access, we met with them, understood that we would open a storefront and start providing our service from there, which we did. But the licensing department demanded we go through the proper licensing channels. They said provincially, it turned out to be federally. We filed our application to try to achieve that. That was 13 and a half months ago. We applied under an emergency basis because we knew we were facing eviction from the store, but the eviction happened anyway without getting that temporary exemption or licenses. And so we moved into an RV, parked it right out front so people would know how to find us, and we've been there ever since. So we'll go out there and visit with the people and see what we're doing in the RV. It's a dark night, but not a bad night. It has been rainy and wet here, and the streets are all wet, but it's not raining right now, so it's not too bad in Vancouver. The temperature's been dipping quite a bit. The snow is coming down the mountains on the North Shore, and we're going to go through another winter by the looks of it in our little RV. And here it is, the Healing Wave CSP RV. Looking like it needs another wash. Just have to do that fairly soon. There's also, as I mentioned earlier in the show, there's other groups across Canada that have taken up the torch and doing what we're doing here, and I like to mention those during the show. On Vancouver Island, the Solid Group brought the project over there within about 6 months of us starting it here in Vancouver. One of the board members from VANDU went over there with the idea, and they've been doing it over there ever since. So they're well into their 4th year now. Chris Backer in Halifax, a good friend of mine, saw the need in his community, and he's been close to 2 years now of supplying high-dose edibles there. I would like to note that one of his main volunteers, Cale, passed away. He had heart issues. He was using a pacemaker. He wasn't that old a man, and he'd been such a dedicated volunteer. Very, very sorry for the loss of that gentleman to the program and to the people there, and to all of his family and friends. Our deepest condolences from here. But Chris continues on with the program, and I'm sure Cale's spirit will live on through that program for a while to come yet. So if you're in Nova Scotia, Halifax area, Chris Backer and the East Coast Cannabis Substitution Program could really use more donations and more help, as always. There's always a bigger need than we can actually meet in all of these communities, but thanks to good people like Chris and his volunteers, they're doing a good job of doing the best they can there. And Mary McCarty, one of our main volunteer bakers here in Vancouver, she was our head baker. As I had mentioned, moved to London, Ontario, got the program going there several months ago, did 230 people today, and now she's headed to Winnipeg to start the program up there, and some good people in London, Ontario will continue the program, and please support them if you can as well. Always donations needed, and whatever people can do to help is always appreciated. Also, there's Jason Lafassi in Sudbury, Ontario, getting the program going there, and other people as well that are helping other people get high-dose edibles. It's a thing, and it needs to be a thing. And we need to get the media reporting on this so that people across Canada understand that there is an option for their loved ones that are perhaps struggling with addiction to opioids and other substances in the form of high-dose cannabis edibles. That news has not been properly distributed and needs to be. So if the mainstream media won't do it, we should do it ourselves. Spread the message, spread those words. Let's get that information out there, and then perhaps the government will be forced to respond and allow access to high-dose cannabis edibles. Let's go check out the RV. Jennifer Nelson, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Looks a little smoky in there. You guys doing your proper testing, I see?
Not smoky enough.
Always testing.
Always testing.
Oh, yeah.
We have to make sure we test what we have here. And we have many, many things for people. We try to have the full range of what people need when they want to use cannabis for their issues, whatever those issues are. We primarily, our focus, the spirit of the program is to help people get off of the opioids, but the value of cannabis to people who are just suffering for a number of different reasons is extremely beneficial to people. So we want to have whatever people need in the way of topicals, suppositories, edibles, concentrates, and of course the flower itself.
Yeah.
So how was your day today?
Pretty good. Wasn't super busy, but it was, steady.
Is it warm enough in there?
We're going through a fair amount of propane.
Yeah. We have a big box of propane containers in there.
Warm.
Yep.
Yeah.
Despite the rain we've
Got to
had
keep us
today.
happy if we're
We're
going to have
not
to live
quite in
in
winter
the
yet even.
No, not yet.
No, I'll be
Yeah.
wearing snow pants next month.
Getting there.
So happy people today.
Sure, it's been a good day.
Yeah, lots of
Compliments
people
and
happy
comments.
coming to get, a joint or some roaches or an edible.
We
I
look
think the
for-
word keeps spreading because we keep having new random people showing up asking for free things. So,
Today, in a rainy day today, that 100 milligram muffin is a people's smile.
Yeah, because we have these muffins that John Murray makes that we give out to people if they don't,
Today it's raining and people...
they can't afford things. We just give these out.
I love when they say. On a day like today, they
And
love
then we got cookies from Michael the Cookie Monster. That's part of the same little... This is a program all of itself out the window here for people that aren't in the actual CSP
I
program.
joked about that. This is the secondary CSP.
It is. It's the sub-program where,
the runoff.
because we're not just going to say, oh, sorry, we don't have room in the program for another person. We're going to say, hey, man, here's an edible for you. Have you had edibles before? If not, well, here's a 30 milligram Michael the Cookie Monster cookie. And if not, or if you have had it before, here's a 100 milligram John Murray muffin. And here's a joint for you. And, come back and see us tomorrow and we'll get you through every day, as we go. So, that's what we do.
Love it.
Let's go see what happens back here. Shaving a haircut?
Sure, why not?
All right.
How's it going, people?
Pretty good. How's it going with you?
Not bad. I've had...
So this is the CSP door,
Yes, it is.
and this is where people come when they're part of our program, and they get 420 milligrams every 4 days. And so what do they get? What do we have to...
What do we have today?
They get to choose, so we get to find out, and we keep track of whatever people take, so we know how to tailor for them the things that work best for them, and we're trying to do as much of a research project here as we can as well. So that's a
I have
nice looking tray.
I have a variety today. I have some 300 milligram gummies from Mad Hatter at 30 milligrams each. Very good, very nice donator. I have some from Weeds. We have some hemp oil here, 100 milligrams. Got some snake oil here, tinctures. People love the snake oil and the hemp oil. I got some gummies here. I got all these gummies here. Different. This one's black cherry, indica, sativa, 40/40. Then we have sativa. We have here. We have CBD, 40 milligrams CBD, and 40 milligrams of THC. We have one that people are beginning to know about, CBD, pure CBD. There's nothing else in here but pure CBD.
And a little bit of pineapple flavor.
Yes. And then I have the one that people have liked. A lot of people like this one. It's pure indica, raspberry. It's very
That was
popular.
always a favorite.
Very popular.
80 milligrams of actual
Yeah.
THC indica.
We have a lot of people that have a lot of pain, and they can. You take one of these, you're fine.
Gorilla Ganja really
Yeah,
works.
they're really good.
Yeah.
Then we have some cookies from Robert. We have some chocolate chip cookies here. They're 100
Delicious.
milligrams each. right? And then we have some candy canes from a guy, Fraser Valley, 100 milligrams of CBD.
Nice.
I gave some of those away today because people like CBD. We're getting to know what the benefits are. I have some cubes here.
Green Wilderness.
Yes, they're 50 milligrams each. I have some more cubes. This is 100 2 cubes will make 100 milligrams. That's 50 milligrams each.
Right.
But some people end up with 320. So these are 40 milligrams each.
Right.
So that's 120 milligrams right here.
Right.
You end up with 320. I'll give you one of these. That's 420.
No. Those are 120.
120
so if they end up with
milligrams.
300.
This is 100. This is 40 milligrams each.
Right. So that's 120.
Yes.
So if they end up with 300.
300 will make 420.
There you go. You got to get the math right. This is truth, hope, and change.
I have some cookies here from Joe Pepper, 100 milligrams. She's pretty good.
Right. And
Yeah.
did you talk about Roberta's brownies?
Yes, we're doing that now.
Okay.
I have Roberta's brownies, 80 milligrams each.
Right.
Very nice, very popular too. I go through a lot of those.
Yeah.
I got some from Fraser Valley. I got some 30 milligram CBD candies.
Nice.
Right. We have a lot more people now that are learning the value of CBD, and they like it more. And I got some very popular item. I got some 50 milligram distillate pills.
Yeah, the
Very
caps are very popular too, eh?
Very popular.
Yeah.
People have said they changed their lives.
Yeah.
They have changed their lives with pills. I got some Keith pills. They're 50 milligrams each. Keith pills, 50 milligrams each. They're very popular.
Right.
Right. And I got
Some lower dose.
I got some lower dose ones for the people that really, they're really unsure of what they're doing, so they'd like a low dose.
Yeah.
They're very popular. Very popular. And
Awesome.
yeah,
Still got some topicals, some Mary's cream.
we have Mary's cream up there. There we go. There we go. This one was
Cool.
made. This one was made by a lady that used to be in do all my edibles at CSP. She was very get up and go from Mary.
Yeah.
And this is very popular because it works. We've had people show us the results, and it's worked great.
Yeah. It's a
This is-
miracle.
Yeah, she does a great job.
It's a miracle product.
Right? It's all homemade, all organic. It's all great.
Wonderful job, Andrew.
Very nice.
Thank
Thanks,
you very
guys.
much. We'll come and visit you on the other side.
Sure. Have a good day, guys.
Very good.
Cheers.
Here we are inside the RV. A little warmer in here. We could probably use a little more light.
Take that one, George.
Sure, we can do that. And George, you're doing your usual rolling job.
Yep.
Roll, roll, roll. These rolls are popular.
And on fire. It's too far back there for it.
So what do we know today? Oh, that's so silly. It's amazing how you can make your ears do that. I'm not sure how you
Make
do
my
it.
ears dance.
Yeah, you can make your ears dance. It's a wonderful world. Technology is a
Being here
great
so
thing, isn't
long,
it?
we got to know a lot of people.
Hmm? What are you talking about?
Hail.
It's
I think
hailing.
it's hailing.
I think so too.
We've had some
There's
crazy weather in Vancouver the last few days.
relatively loud bangs.
Tornadoes and hail.
Yeah,
But we're still here.
we're still here. Come hail, come tornadoes, come rain,
Yeah.
Hey, we had a
and,
tornado.
and heat domes. Boy, that heat dome was something.
We had a heat dome.
We had the heat
12
dome. Remember the
people
heat
died.
dome when 600 people died in British Columbia? You were here
Yeah.
sitting in the RV
What, you
selling
meant
weed.
like recently, like the last 2 days. I was like, what are you talking about?
No, I'm reminiscing now because we've been over a year in this RV.
Hail, yeah, that's
Believe it or not. Yeah, I think that's probably hail coming down. But yeah, believe it or not, we've been over a year coming to this RV 6 days a week for 8 hours a day. We hang out in here, we test products to make sure we're giving people good stuff, and we help so many people every day. We witness all kinds of tragedy amongst people's family members that are struggling with addiction and poverty and mental illness down here. We see all of that, and we get to feel some sort of sense of being able to do something about it. I know for me it helps me sleep at night that I'm at least part of the solution here. and we'd like more people to be part of the solution as well. What we really need is to have a push into the new Ministry of Mental Health and Addictions at the federal level, and also to Health Canada Special Licensing and Exemptions Division, to quickly allow for low barrier access community cannabis stores, to provide an easy access option, or an easy option for people who are struggling the way they are in this neighborhood here. The forces that be seem content with the status quo. Their solutions are about more different opioids that keep people addicted, that are even harder to withdraw from, and continue to put money into the pockets of pharmaceutical companies, taxpayer dollars, to fund these programs. And all we're asking for is a piece of paper with a signature on it that we can hang on the wall and allow us to have a storefront where we can do what we do to provide for those people that don't have resources. We can get it to them for free. For those people that do have resources, we can get it to them at reasonable prices that make sense for daily users and medical users. And this needs to happen here, and it needs to happen all across Canada and throughout North America and many places around the world. This scourge of addiction to opioids can be addressed with cannabis if the governments will allow that to happen. And so far, we're running up against brick walls. We're running up against excuses and delays and distractions and all of the rest of it. But we cannot get the governments at any level to act on our behalf in any real way, all the way to the federal government. We've had some, we've had lip service given to it. We've even had letters written by councillors. We've had phone calls made to the federal government asking, that they help us. But really, I think the city of Vancouver could issue us a license and let us into the store if they wanted to. I think that the province of British Columbia could issue us a ministerial exemption that would allow us to do what we're doing here and have the city support us and the banks allow us to have a bank account. And yet they're all waiting. They all say that they're concerned about what the federal government might do if they act against their what they say. So it's the federal government, that's whose ball the court, or not whose court the ball is in. And what you can do is put some pressure on those people, nicely or not nicely, however you want to do it. But if we have enough voices heard, then perhaps they will do something. But seriously, there is such a huge need for low barrier access to cannabis. This legalization program that we've got, or system that has been foisted upon us much against our own better advice as to how to do it, is certainly not something that we should settle for or comply with, not something that our veterans who fought and died in world wars would ever think that we should put up with. This is not freedom. This is not what we deserve as human beings. This is killing people. This is absolutely causing harm, mayhem, and all kinds of damage to our economy, to our society, to individuals, to not have cannabis easily available, to have it in stores that are overpriced and outpriced for almost anybody that really needs cannabis on any type of a daily or serious basis, is not answering the problems that cannabis can help us with. And to allow that system to be entrenched and to not be able to move forward from there will just condemn medical users and daily users, people that suffer, that need cannabis, to more of the same that they've been getting for all of these decades, where they're put into the shadows and into the closets. They're just not provided access at all. Many people just suffer and die. Many epileptic children are being left without, and it goes on and on from there. So it's a very, very serious issue. We are at a turning point in our world where maybe we can get this done and make a difference if enough people join together. That's how we won wars. That's how we can win this war. We can't all just be complacent and not do anything about this. If enough of us get together and do something about it, we can make a big, big difference and move into a future where cannabis instead of alcohol rules the day, when love instead of fear rules the day, and families and futures and people's feelings are important instead of just bottom line profits for businesses. We can change the world if we work towards it, and one person can't do it all, but can certainly make a difference. And if enough one peoples make differences, then a whole bunch of those one peoples will make a big difference. And sorry for my grammar there, but gotta just try to say it any way you can, and you know, if it's funny and fun, then that's even better, I guess. But the point is, you know, join the crew of trying to make a difference here and get the governments to provide low barrier access to cannabis. Let's do it for future generations. Let's do it for us. Let's just do it for the fun of it. Yeah, I want to thank Pot TV for giving me the platform. I want to thank all the people that helped make the program a possibility, all the volunteers and donators right across Canada working on cannabis substitution in whatever form, and working on cannabis proper legalization in whatever form. Thank you to all of you. Pot TV has other programs you can watch during the week. Carly Marley on Mondays with the 420 Lifestyle Show, her and BC Bud Gal. BC Bud Gal again on Thursdays with the Morning Glory, Wake and Bake Show about 10 a.m. Johnny B, if he's not on Friday with How's It Growing, there's archives of his show, and very important to get growing on that, because we can really still outgrow this situation, and that's probably the only way that we're going to get her done, is if we all continue to grow as much as we can and help each other get access as best we can. I think that's it for shows. There's a bunch of stuff in the archives. There's a bunch of stuff to get involved with. The world is an amazing place. The universe is an amazing place. Spend your time focused on the positive, thinking about your future positive goals and just how amazing life is. And let's all of us together make a difference. And while you're doing that, of course, be kind to each other and have as much fun as you can. We'll see you next week.